Alright, guys, we've reached the the quarterfinals of the Monte Carlo Masters. But before that, a few words about the three finals that took place in small clay court tournaments this past Sunday. I predicted all of these finals incorrectly, which is bad, but I have now realized my error in these predictions, which is that I seem to think that those players who had not won a title before would lose, or at least not win so handily against players who had won multiple titles in their careers. But as I have been shown from the performances of Flavio Cobolli and Jensen Brooksby, that is clearly not the case. It seems to be the case that even if you have never won one title in your career, you can completely outplay a player who has won multiple titles in his career. So I will now bear that in mind, and I will alter my prediction methods accordingly. Now, Darderi also defeated Griekspoor in straight sets. All of these finals were in straight sets, but that final was actually close. It was 7-6, 7-6, so that could have gone either way had a few points in the tiebreak gone Griekspoor's way instead. And Darderi had won a title before in his career. So that prediction that Griekspoor would win was not a bad prediction, because that was actually a close match. But in the other matches, Baez and Tiafoe got completely outplayed. They may have had some chances in one of the sets, but in the other set, they never really had a chance to get in front, and they both lost in straight sets against younger opponents, I believe. So I will bear this in mind for next time. And now let's move on to the quarterfinals in Monte Carlo. Starting off, we have the Spaniard and a former finalist at this tournament from 2022, Alejandro Davidovich Fokina, who is still trying to get his hands on his very first title after being in two finals this year already, both of which he had chances in to win the match, actually, even though in the Mahach match in Acapulco, that final, he lost in straight sets. He had chances to go ahead in both of those sets. But that was probably a less frustrating loss than his loss in Delray Beach against Miomir Kecmanovic, where he was up 5-2 in that final set, and he may have had a match point even. I think he had a match point or two at 5-3, and he lost that 7-5, just completely choked, completely collapsed. But he did make the final in Acapulco after that, and he has made his way into a Masters quarterfinal at a tournament where he has made the final before. And he has a pretty favorable opponent in the sense that this guy is not a seeded player, and this guy has been pretty bad throughout this year, and maybe even the last few months after the US Open and Toronto last year, or was it Montreal actually? I think it was Montreal, where he won a Masters title amazingly. Probably the worst player to ever win a Masters title, possibly. And that is not hating on him, that is just kind of looking at statistics. This guy had literally done next to nothing besides win a couple of small titles before he somehow went and won a Masters and defeated multiple top 10 players, basically out of nowhere. And Sinner was in the draw too, but Sinner lost to Rublev. That may have been Sinner's only, or one of Sinner's 2 off days in the entire 2024 season. That was kind of an off day, or an off day where he lost, because he probably had more off days, but his floor is so high that he still won even when it was an off day for him. But that match and the match against Medvedev in the quarterfinals of Wimbledon that Sinner lost, those were like his only 2 off days where he lost throughout basically the entire year. In his other losses, he didn't really have an off day. He just lost, like to Alcaraz and Tsitsipas in Monte-Carlo, where he got a bit unlucky with the line call, but he was still up a break, I believe. So yeah, he did look pretty off in that match against Rublev in Montreal, and he lost, and then Popyrin defeated Rublev in the final, somewhat surprisingly. He was just blasting forehands at will. It seemed like in that tournament and in the first few rounds of the US Open, he defeated Djokovic in the 3rd round of the US Open. He could just blast forehands as hard as he possibly wanted, and it would just all go in. And that worked for about two weeks, and then it stopped working, and he went back to bum status. And this year he has barely won any matches, but he has found some form in this tournament. He just defeated Casper Ruud in a tight 3-set match where he really showed his true character and his grit and determination, and he showed why. He showed why he was able to fluke that Masters. He showed that he had heart and fight and determination under pressure. And he defeated Casper Ruud, the clay court merchant, and the defending finalist of this tournament. So, Ruud, he kind of choked. He had two match points on Popyrin's serve at 5-3 in the 3rd set. And then he served for the match at 5-4, and he started falling apart. But in that final game that Ruud lost at 5-6, when Popyrin was winning his 3rd game in a row to close out the match, Popyrin was pretty magnificent in that game. At least he played a couple of fantastic points. He was just locked in those final 3 games, and Ruud was not locked in. It's basically simple as that. But he played a couple of great points in that last game, and he looked so determined. Even I was watching the match this morning, and Popyrin was sitting down at the changeover right after he saved those 2 match points on his serve at 3-5 and held for 4-5. And Ruud was going to serve for the match after the changeover. When Popyrin was sitting at his chair, he looked determined as hell. He was like looking at his coach, looking at his team, sitting down on the changeover, looking at his team. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna break back. And he did. He broke back with a backhand return winner down the line off of Ruud's serve. And then he was just in the zone at those last couple games, and he won the match, reeling off 3 games in a row from 5-4 to, or maybe it was 4 games in a row actually, because he was at 5-3 and it went to 5-7. So he was just in the zone at the end. He hit an amazing half volley backhand winner in that final game, and then he just played another good aggressive point, and I think finished off the match with an overhead. So good stuff from Popyrin. He has made it into a quarterfinal on clay, which people might not expect, but he's actually not bad on clay. He almost took a set off of Nadal in the 2021 French Open first round, I believe. I think he was up 5-2 or 5-3 in that 3rd set, and then he choked and lost it in a tiebreak. but that shows that he is not actually bad on clay. I mean, he has very heavy forehand. His backhand is not that good, but maybe on clay it is actually not as much of a weakness, perhaps, because he could just get it up there and kick it up with a bunch of spin, and it doesn't really have much on it other than some lazy topspin. But that can be annoying to try to attack on slow clay. Or maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, but yeah, he's actually not bad on clay, is my point. And I'm going to make a slightly bold prediction here. I think that he can defeat Davidovich Fokina. And this seems like it's going to be wrong, but I'ma say it anyway. I mean, you would think, oh, Fokina is a very solid clay court player, but he just defeated Ruud, who should be even a better clay court player than Fokina. So why not go one further? I mean, this guy won a Masters out of nowhere. I'm not saying he will win this tournament. I don't think he will do that, but he can make a semifinal out of nowhere if he can win a tournament out of nowhere. So why not? I mean, this match looks maybe a bit 50-50 to me, to be honest. It is the only quarterfinal where both players with unseeded players. All the other quarterfinals are with two seeded players facing off against each other. So I feel like this is a good opportunity for both of these players. They've never faced each other before, by the way. But yeah, I'm actually going to predict Popperin to pull out the win in 3 sets, but I think that this can go either way. And if he even loses in straights, I wouldn't really be surprised, because this kind of seems like a clown prediction, but I'm going to make it anyway until I get proven wrong, and then I will learn not to make such predictions. But anyway, moving on to the second quarterfinal, which is the blockbuster quarterfinal. And it is, of course, the second seed Carlos Alcaraz against the 12th seed Arthur Fils. Fils, who has actually reached the quarterfinals of all 3 of the Masters events this year, Indian Wells, Miami, and Monte Carlo, and he has lost in the quarterfinal in all, well, not all 3 of them, because this one hasn't been played yet, in both Indian Wells and Miami. But he has gone to the quarterfinal again. So that shows that he is consistent. He is going deep in these big events consistently so far this year, except Australian Open, he didn't go very deep. But after that, he has been consistent at the big events, and he's in another Masters quarterfinal. So he will be facing Carlos Alcaraz, of course, who has never lost to a player younger than him. Fils is 1 year younger than Alcaraz. Fils is about 3 months younger than I am. And these players have never faced each other before. And I'm going to make another bold prediction. And I think that Fils will win this, actually, in 3 sets. And this can again be completely wrong, but Fils, he just put in a brilliant performance against Rublev. He won like 6-2, 6-3. Yeah, Alcaraz won like 6-3, 6-1 in his match, but he was facing a qualifier. So it was not really a beast mode Alcaraz, even though it was a very one-sided match. The guy he was playing was just not a very strong opponent. He didn't really have much that could hurt Alcaraz. So even though he had a score of 6-3, 6-1, it was not like Alcaraz was amazing. I think he actually did a few too many unforced errors, actually. And I think that Fils will be desperate to break this quarterfinal curse. He doesn't want to lose 3 quarterfinals in a row at Masters events. And he will know that Alcaraz just lost against a guy, an up-and-coming guy, Draper in Indian Wells. He just lost in the first round of Miami to an old gen player, David Goffin. So he will believe in himself. I mean, he seems to always believe in himself, Fils, but He will believe in himself, and he will have the crowd behind him. You know, playing a Frenchman in France is not easy, even though this tournament is the Monte Carlo Masters. Geopolitically, actually, the courts are technically located in France, so Fils will have the crowd on his side, and I think that he can pull this off, this upset. Actually, Alcaraz has never faced him before, so he will not. They will both need time to adjust, but Fils has been playing well, and I'm going to predict him to win this in 3 sets. Maybe I will be wrong, but again, I will make another bold prediction. Okay, but now the bold predictions will stop with these last 2 quarterfinals. Starting with the 15th seed Grigor Dimitrov against the 8th seed Alex de Minaur. The head-to-head is 3-2 for de Minaur. They have almost all of their meetings have been on hard courts, so this is the first time they will face each other on clay. This is a fairly close head-to-head, but I will go with de Minaur to win this in straight sets. I think that he just will. Yeah, that's my reasoning. I mean, he did just destroy Daniil Medvedev 6-2, 6-2, but that is nothing to write home about because, let's face it, Medvedev is completely finished. Anyone can defeat him now. He is just an advanced pusher, and advanced pushing isn't working anymore, even on this ultra slow court. So, as long as you don't just make dumb mistakes and keep your cool and wait for a ball to attack, follow it into the net, play with controlled aggression, you will defeat Medvedev. You really will do that, because he cannot do anything anymore other than push the ball back. Kind of like me. He is even more of a pusher than de Minaur at this rate, because he doesn't have a serve anymore. He hasn't had a serve for the last few months or so, getting towards a year, after some shoulder injury. I don't even know when it was, but he doesn't really have a serve anymore. So he is literally just a pure pusher at this point, basically, as close as you can get to being a pusher at the pro level. And that's not going to work in this era of power tennis with people like Fonseca, Sinner, Alcaraz, who can hit the ball quite literally 100 miles an hour. Pushing will not work. So as long as you keep your cool and play with controlled aggression, you will defeat him, just like should be the case with pushers in general. As long as you just stay calm, wait for your ball to attack, and have enough patience to do that, and don't make stupid decisions, you will win. It's just a case that at lower levels of the game, people make stupid mistakes a lot more often. But pros, even though they can do that, it is easier for them to not do that than it is for an amateur. So a pro who doesn't make dumb mistakes should beat Medvedev, pretty much, whoever they are, assuming that they are able to play aggressive enough and aren't just going to rally with him forever from the back, because that's what he wants you to do. That's how they get you. You cannot do that. You have to actually go for your shots a little bit. You don't have to go for anything crazy, but you have to be looking to move forward, because you don't want to just rally forever from the back. That is what he wants you to do. So don't do that, and then you will probably win against Medvedev these days. But anyway, I think that de Minaur will defeat Dimitrov in straight sets. He just will. Yeah, he just will. So now that's not a bold prediction, by the way. Now for the final quarterfinal, which is the defending champion and the new king of Monte Carlo, Stefanos Tsitsipas, who has won this tournament 3 times, tying a couple of other people, I believe, and I don't know if anyone has won it more than 3 times, other than obviously Rafael Nadal, who has won it like 10 or something times. 10, 11, 12, I don't even know. Other than him, I don't know if anyone has won it more than 3 times. So Tsitsipas has done an incredible job at this tournament. It really suits his game style because it's so slow. His backhand isn't much of a weakness, and he can just keep hitting with heavy topspin off of that side over and over. And his shots, the topspin on his shots just gets rewarded on these courts. He knows how to be aggressive at the right moment, and his shot tolerance is probably at his best in this tournament. So these courts really suit his game, and that's why he has won it, the tournament here 3 times, which is even more than Novak Djokovic has won it. Djokovic has won it twice, and it's looking like he will never win it again. He just lost in the first round to Alejandro Tabilo again, who also owned his ass in Rome last year. So now he has 2-love against him, just donating free head-to-heads to make these guys seem better. Djokovic is doing at this stage in his career. Lets this random guy win against him twice in straight sets. So he does not care anymore. He will play well for one tournament, and then he will lose in the first round the next. That's what he will do these days, which is basically normal behavior for many tennis players. They will play well and then they will lose first, second round. It's just not what we expect from Djokovic. But he is now practically 38 years old. In 1 month he will be 38, so we cannot expect him to go deep in every tournament. I don't even know if he cares. I mean, he also lives in Monte-Carlo, so he probably figured that it would be a quick trip back home. And he just came to troll around. So he lost in straight sets to Tabilo, who has won like 3 matches in the entire year. But anyway, Tsitsipas has won this tournament more times than Djokovic has. Granted, Djokovic was playing in the era of Rafael Nadal, who won this tournament like 10 times or so. But still, that is a very good feat from Tsitsipas. He won this tournament in 2021 for the first time, then he defended his title in 2022, and he won it again last year, so he is a defending champion, as I said. And it is looking like he has a cakewalk to the final once again, where he will probably be the favorite unless Alcaraz is there, because Alcaraz owns him. If Alcaraz is not there, then he will be looking pretty good to win this tournament for a 4th time, quite incredibly. That is a very good achievement from him, but he will still not win a slam. Do not even start with that nonsense, because people have been saying that since 2021 or even earlier. But when he won Monte Carlo for the first time, oh look, he won a big clay title. Now he can win RG. No, he did not win. In fact, he did not win RG after winning this big clay title. The closest he got was in 2021, where that year he actually could have won it. That is the only time, because he was up 2-0 in the final against Djokovic. The other years, he was not going to win it. Because there were players there that he cannot get past. He cannot get past Rune. He cannot get past Alcaraz. That is who he has lost to at Roland Garros for the past 3 years. If those guys got out of his way, then things might actually get interesting, because he doesn't seem to have as much problem with the majority of players on clay. If he can avoid Djokovic, Rune, and Alcaraz, then things can actually get interesting. I will say that at Roland Garros for Tsitsipas. But avoiding all of those 3 is a quite difficult thing to do, and that is why he has lost to those 3 players in the past 5 years of the French Open. He has lost to those 3 players. The last time he didn't was in 2019, when he lost a 5-set match against Stan Wawrinka. Since then, he has only lost to Djokovic, Rune, and Alcaraz at the French Open. But it looks quite hard to avoid playing any one of those 3, which is why he has not been able to win the French Open. Among other things, possibly. But anyway, he is still really good at this tournament, obviously, and he has a very good shot at making this 4 victories at this event, 4 tournament wins at this event, assuming he can avoid Alcaraz. And I just said that Alcaraz would get knocked out against Fils, so Tsitsipas can absolutely win this again. Absolutely. First up, he has Musetti in the quarterfinals, which is the match I'm supposed to be talking about right now. The head-to-head is 5-love to Tsitsipas. And 4 of those 5 times have been on clay. The last 4 times, actually, and Tsitsipas has won all 4 of those. A couple of them were close, actually. But still, when you have a head-to-head that is 5-love, one does not simply predict the player who has won none of the matches to win, and I'm not going to do that. I made my bold predictions before, but I'm not that dumb. So, Tsitsipas will win this. But let's say Musetti can get a set. Sure, why not? I mean, he's not looked bad this tournament. He's looked okay. I'll give him a set, just for the heck of it. He has been competitive with him on clay before, but he's just never won. So I would say Tsitsipas wins this in 3 sets. But now looking forward, since I got on the topic of it anyway, after that he will face either Dimitrov or de Minaur. Now his head-to-head with de Minaur is even worse than Musetti. Tsitsipas is 11-1 against de Minaur. 11-1. And when you are 11-1, you don't pick the player who won 1 time to win. So I don't think de Minaur will be defeating Tsitsipas in Monte-Carlo. And I don't think Dimitrov will be doing that either. I think his head-to-head with Dimitrov is maybe it's like 6-2. 6-2. That is fairly lopsided as well. So I don't think Dimitrov will be defeating him in Monte-Carlo. And then let's look at the final. He will face either Davidovich Fokina, whom he already beat in the 2022 final here. So I don't think Fokina will defeat him here. Popyrin, who hasn't really done anything on clay, even though he has a 1-love head-to-head that barely counts because it was a match 4 years ago in Paris, an indoor hard court, and Tsitsipas retired before the first set even finished. So forget that. Can't take anything away. Do I think Popyrin will defeat Tsitsipas on clay? No, Popyrin has not done anything on clay other than what I said, like he almost took a set from Nadal. He has not won any titles or gone deep in big events on clay. So do I think Popyrin will defeat him on clay? No. Arthur Fils, he might have a chance. He is 2-love against Tsitsipas, actually. But these were both on hard courts, and these were both decently close matches, actually. So they have never faced on clay. That is a different story. He will certainly not be the favorite to win against Tsitsipas on clay, at Monte Carlo no less, and in his first Masters final. So Fils would not be the favorite to win against Tsitsipas in the final. So the only one who really looks to be able to stop him, or I should say has the best chance, because it could be, depending on what happens in these next couple matches. I'm not picking Tsitsipas to lose the semifinal no matter what. Obviously, assuming that he wins against Musetti, which he probably will, because he has 5-love. Tsitsipas will be in that final. He will be there. I'm like 90% sure of that. I'm not going to pick him to lose in the semifinal. But depending on what happens in these next few matches from everybody, it could be the case that a player sort of sways me to favor them for the final. But they will not be the favorite a priori, unless they are Carlos Alcaraz, because Alcaraz owns Tsitsipas. He owns him. It's like 5-love, 6-love head-to-head. But if Tsitsipas faces any of these other 3 players, Davidovich Fokina, Popyrin, or Fils in the final, he will be licking his lips. He will be like, I got this, bro. 4th Monte Carlo, easy, neg diff. As long as he avoids Alcaraz. Like, he's probably good. But let's see how these guys do in the next couple rounds and before making any official predictions. But right now, it would seem this is depending on if Alcaraz gets through the next couple matches or not, whether or not Tsitsipas will win this title. But yeah, this can get interesting. So to recap my predictions, I think that Alexei Papirin will defeat Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in 3 sets. Artur Fils will defeat Carlos Alcaraz in 3 sets. Stefanos Tsitsipas will defeat Lorenzo Musetti in 3 sets. And Alex de Minaur will defeat Grigor Dimitrov in straight sets. And I think we will have semifinals between the 12th seed Artur Fils and the Montreal champion Alexei Papirin. And the other semifinal being between the defending champion Stefanos Tsitsipas and the 8th seed Alex de Minaur. So 2 Australians in the semifinals, potentially.